Before we begin today's conversation, I need to acknowledge something. Today is October 15th, National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. This is a day of remembrance and a day to honor the babies who were loved but never held, the dreams that lived in our hearts but never took breath, the profound grief that so many carry in silence. If you experience pregnancy loss, infant loss, or the aching uncertainty of fertility journey, I see you today. This episode is for you. This space honors you. Tonight at 7 p.m., people around the world will light candles in their time zones, creating a wave of light that circles the globe. A reminder that even in our grief, we are never alone. My guest today, Anomie Atkins, has walked through this fire. She's lived the multiple miscarriages, the isolation, the grief of what was lost. And from that grief, she's built something sacred, a community where people go from isolated to understood. This conversation is happening today intentionally because some stories deserve to be told on sacred ground. So if you need to pause this episode to light your own candle, please do. If you need to sit with your grief before you hear this story of hope, take your time. And if you're ready to hear how one woman turned her deepest losses into a legacy of healing, let's begin. Anomie, welcome to Breaking Chains. Thank you for being here today on this episode.
Oh, Nicole, I'm so moved. I'm speechless, which is not the point of an episode, but I'm very moved. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So let me ask you this. What does breaking chains mean to you personally?
I want to answer that, but I also have to speak about the sacred ground that I live on, which is a surprise. I didn't tell you, sorry about that.
So
But I come from, I am calling in from Menang Pibbleman country, which is Buja. From the they are peoples from the Noongar nation, and this is unceded land. And I pay my respects to elders, past and present, and I'm very grateful for the knowledge that they have given me so far about this Buja, because I love this country so much. The karri trees and the ocean, and I live on a mountain called Wakundup, which is the place of the water bird. And in that knowledge that they have been able to pass through onto us, some of it has been disrupted because families have been broken, children have been stolen, and we would have so much more knowledge if that hadn't happened. So I'm acknowledging children who were born, but also taken from families.
Oh, wow.
Another
That-
loss.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
And like I just jumped into my questions. I didn't even introduce you. I didn't even ask you to introduce yourself. Because, like you said, that the beginning was not my typical way of starting an episode. And it's because it's such an emotional day. So it's just like, all right, let's just get this through. So forgive me. Please tell us about yourself and introduce yourself.
But I think your questions are amazing. They will definitely introduce me in a full capacity, and my program and what I believe in. So I'm happy to jump in. That's lovely. I forgot to tell you that I will acknowledge country, which is a tradition, well, a way of being in Australia for First Nations peoples, for the first people of this
I think it's
country.
on, like coming from America, how we don't really we have so many different cultures that no one really knows what the true history is. And, we just had Indigenous People Day on Monday. When I grew up, we called it Christopher Columbus Day because we said he discovered America, which was not the case, right? Like they weren't lost, so you can't find them, right? They weren't asking you to find them. So honoring the people who originally had that land and, honoring it in that way is truly beautiful and should be respected across the world. So that's why I said that is I'm touched by it, and I wish more people in the States would do stuff like that.
Well, we're going to break that chain.
Yes, I love it.
I'll dive into the
Yes,
chain.
absolutely.
Um, so for me, it's emancipation from patriarchy, capitalism, sexism, patriarchy again, racism, West European perspectives. Here we go there. All the isms, but also, and the shoulds, the woulds, the coulds that come into our own brains that don't come from us. And so it's about, for me, it's about freeing your mind. And doing that is a matter of questioning where that comes from and finding out where your own values come from. Having time to explore them and then living by them.
Like when you talked about those should, coulds, and woulds, I'm thinking about how the traditional standpoint of how we were raised is saying, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in a baby carriage. And you're like, I'm flipping the table and I'm not doing that way. So when you apply for the podcast, you described yourself as a solo mom by choice. So that's a bold, unconventional path, especially when society has narrow definitions of what family should look like. What chains did you have to break to step into that decision?
Yeah, I had to break the fairy tale. But there are some solo moms by choice who step into this quite empowered. They haven't had pregnancy loss. They haven't had a period of infertility. And I actually had that and then had to, in a heterosexual relationship, and I had to choose between my partner and trying to have a child alone. And I had to redefine what family is because it wasn't my I didn't have that picture of family in my mind. I just realized that I couldn't not try. And I had to choose what was most important to me. And that was a sad breakup as well, but it just wasn't a shared vision between my partner and I. He wanted to try, but he didn't want to try as much as me. And so, and then now I'm redefining family in that I don't know what donor children my child will connect with and how big our family might get. So, yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about it. I never think about it in that aspect. Like, you pick your donor, but you don't think about like the family that, siblings that she could have beyond, the family dynamic you have for her.
Yeah.
So you've been through multiple miscarriages, IVF, and isolation that comes with the fertility struggles, which I know hand in hand for like almost 10 years. And I know from your story, there were profound aloneness with this experience. What was the moment you realized you couldn't do this alone? And what shifted when you stopped trying to? Because I never did that. I just continued doing it alone.
Yeah. I had to look back and see all the things I had already managed on my own, and I was empowered. It actually, there were two moments because also, sorry. Also, I was doing my master's by research and I was in Cambodia, and people were calling me a strong woman because I was there by myself. And it brought me to tears. Instead of me feeling, yeah, great, I was feeling that is the outside, but inside, I'm full of doubts and I'm scared and I feel alone. And the tears helped me understand that instead of being a strong woman who powers through, and this was after my miscarriages, but before I'd separated from my partner, I was going to be resourceful. and I was going to bend, and I was going to show a lot of grace in my response to what happens to me, what life gives me, and that helped. I don't
You
know if I
know,
answered the
like,
question.
no, you did. I mean, because it's not easy to do it, right? Like we try to have this front of being. I mean, I'm not saying that we're not strong, right? And I get it, right?
No, we
Sometimes
are
we
strong as
don't. We want.
well.
Yeah, like there's different levels to strength, and it's like sometimes I want people to see my softness. I don't want them to see my strength, right? Um, but I know when I was going through my fertility issues, I withdrew from my network, like my community, right? I didn't want people like seeing people who were pregnant or the ones who were trying and it just felt like they sneezed and got pregnant. It was hard to be around them, like going to the doctor's office and having to go, see the fertility clinic doctor and you're seeing someone come in with the bump. It's like, couldn't they be in a different wing? Like, why are they here right now when there's the other ones who are just like you're not trying to have that energy, but it feels isolating. So I imagine people listening right now can probably understand this impulse of wanting to isolate, like not wanting to have that kind of feeling of being judged or even having the negative energy. Like, because I never wanted to put my negative energy on a pregnant woman, right? Like, oh gosh, here she comes, right? So I distanced myself. What did that isolation teach you about the kind of support you now create for your clients?
Yes, that it is very helpful to be in a group of people who understand you. And I guess it's mirrored in Jessica's story, one of my clients. So I'd like to tell it in her words, because she gave me this feedback after participating. And she had great friends. She had wonderful friends, and she had a fulfilling life, working in justice and filmmaking, but she listened to a lot of people's stories, and she needed someone to listen to her. And she didn't want to burden her friends, to the extent of how much she felt she wanted to be free to be able to keep telling a story, to have the pain in comfort without feeling like this is too much to put onto a friend. So she joined Nest Coaching Club, which is my program, my club. And that gave her the chance to hear other people's stories that she could relate to feel for herself on behalf of others, and to imagine different alternatives to responding to the same situations. So I feel that gives you a chance to realize that you will be all right whatever happens, even though your heart's desire is to have a family and to have a baby in your arms. You learn to be all right with any outcome, which
Yes,
is a
that is so beautiful.
big
Like just having that
thing.
support. Yeah. Speaking of Nest, let's talk about it, right? You mentioned that your clients go from isolated to understood. And for me that hit, right? Because I never even realized I was in isolation. So the fact that someone would have seen me in that space and said, you know what, I get where you're going through. What does being understood actually feel like for someone in the thick of their fertility treatment?
It feels like relief. Um, it feels it, it allows more compassion, more self-compassion, because it's easier to feel compassion for others when you hear it, but that reflects back to you. So we have tears and laughter. Um, uh, and we can be uh, an insider in this group when we feel like an outsider in our personal space, particularly
It's
if
funny when you
other
said
people.
there's tears and laughter. Is that what you refer to as that small, deceptively simple technique that you're doing for your clients? Like, what is it that they would do coming into the Nest Club?
If they feel comfortable, they will share their story. But often, if you don't want to do that, you can hear other people's stories and you can have your emotions through other people. I will always help people to squeeze extra joy out of what they are already doing in their life. A lot of clients are already doing everything for their fertility. And we will explore is trying too much, because I guess one of the examples I'd like to talk about is there are men who are taking 10 times the recommended dosage of supplements because it is love. They are watching their partner. And this is not necessarily my group of people, because I coach women and LGBTQ plus folk through infertility and the reproductive treatment. But this is an example of the love that is happening and the amount of trying that is happening. But this trying is actually damaging their sperm. And yet, so their doctors cannot get them to let go of that trying. They will say, actually, do not take those supplements. And they will still take the supplements. And I'm not laughing at them, because I know this comes from a place of love. But it also, it comes from a place of wanting to do something with this, which you'll understand, this extended uncertainty where you are out of control. You can't make it happen. And it's such an uncomfortable place for humans to be. And so we go into lots of action, lots of anxiety, controlling behavior. So separating the controlling behavior, calming ourselves, and being present with that uncertainty, with that real human situation of not being in control of everything, which we have to face during these complex family building situations, is a way to then be able to work out, okay, I can do less, and less will actually achieve more. And I guess that ties into the concept of rest for you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I think about it now, like I was trying to have so much control. Like now, like as you're saying it, I'm like, yes, that's where the anxiety started to come up, right? Okay, well, this test failed. Let me go get back into it and do all these things. And your mind is trying to play these games of I'm gonna solve this puzzle, right? If for me, it felt like my CPA exam. It took me 5 years to pass that, right? Because I was just dealing with everything happening in personal life. And it's like, but no, I have to focus. If I just put my head down and focus, I'm going to do this. So that's how I got my CPA. So I figured that would be the same thing with, getting pregnant. And you realize it's not in your control, right? It's in the universe's hands and with you relaxing. Like once I learned how to rest and I realized my body was so tense, it was like, oh, wow. Like I could see the difference. And, like when I was reading through your application, you talked about Abigail, one of your other clients, and just her taking a holiday, and that's when she got pregnant versus trying to control the narrative. Do you want to speak on like her experience through the Nest Coaching Club?
Well, and of course, that when people tell you to relax, just relax, it'll happen. That is diminishing your experience. So we're not going there, but we're dealing with that paradox of having a really, really strong heart's desire and setting that and maintaining that hope, but then letting go and allowing it. So it's holding your dreams softly and then letting go. And that's where one of my, becoming of my framework for my coaching, which is believe, have the hope, keep your mindset positive, breathe, allow yourself to have your feelings, move your body and be in your body sometimes. And then becoming is becoming a role model to the next generation. And if that means you're an amazing parent, then that's perfect, because that's what your dream is, to have a baby in the arms and then parent that baby with all the things you've learned from life up to now. But if that isn't a baby in the arms, then becoming a role model for the next generation. There are many, many children out there, and a conversation I had with a man who spoke at a recent conference, and he said he's childless, not by choice, and their journey involved more than 10 years of trying and everything. And I asked him because he had come to a lot of peace. He still had grief, but he had come to a lot of peace, and he had a good life and a very good relationship with his partner now. And the best times they've ever had, they knew they'd worked for it, and they were very proud of that. But his wife was now driving a school bus. So she had healed from her own loss enough to enjoy these children. And I'm so inspired by her. And so that's what I mean by becoming a role model, because if you're focusing on that, then you've got that little bit of gap between trying too hard and trying to do everything. And then the self-care and the self-compassion, you can do those things, and we can build those in really micro ways, where you're not getting up, having a health drink, doing yoga, and because you've still got to work, you're paying for infertility treatment, and you're planning a family. You need to show up for work, and that's enough. And so the rest is very much just enjoying your life and returning to the self you were before you were having these struggles.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think I went back to who I was. I learned the new version of myself, right? Like I realized, okay, this is my story and I'm okay with it. Like it wasn't overnight. I think losing my daughter at 19 weeks 5 years ago, that was the one that crushed me the most. And I knew even in that hospital room, like I cannot keep doing this to myself. I knew that yes, I'm strong, but I didn't feel like it was going to be a disservice to my son that I already had, for me to keep doing this to my mental and to my body, right? Because it's not just, hey, we're trying to do these treatments. It's also going through the process of going to the doctors. You're listening, the anxiety of everything. You're listening for the heartbeat and things like that. And that's why I say this community that you have is so important, because I didn't have any answers. I didn't even think to look for a Facebook group until my daughter. That was my third loss at that point, right? The first two, I would take 6 weeks off from work and just say, leave me alone. I don't want anyone talking to me. I don't want anyone trying to console me or anything like that. But that third one, I allowed my community, which was my coworkers, to hold me, right? Because it was COVID, so we were on lockdown. They left the teddy bear at my doorstep, and that was the first time that I realized I didn't have to face this alone. Um, so what you do is very important, and I feel like, programs like yours increases success rates, right? Which means there's more babies in people's arms, and when you have that connection between that self-compassion, the actual outcome, the emotional support, it makes it less daunting. And I think more people, like when people hear coaching, they get a little weird about it because they don't really know what it is, but it's something that, is going to show results, right? Whether it's the actual physical child, it's just think about where your mindset is, right? Like I'm so grateful for not just the communities that I've been in, but the coaching that I've had along the way. That's why I'm able to be on a podcast right now. The older version or the younger version of me, like she would have never done this. She was just, again, isolated. And meeting you in Brooklyn was just like, okay, like, yes, this story is needed and this message is needed, right? It's not just in Australia, it's worldwide where infertility is common. And I remember feeling like there was shame. I think that's why I never said anything, because the first time felt like such shame, like, oh my gosh, how can this happen, right? I never knew anything about this. I was so ignorant because I had my first child was easy peasy. And so the second time around was just like, oh, okay, that's weird. Third time was like, huh. Third time, I'm like, oh, I'm sure this is not going to happen again. And then by the fourth time, I'm like, this is my last time trying, right? I cannot do this anymore. And so, I'm rambling.
Oh,
But,
it's such a lot. You've tapped into everything in there, and it's such a physical thing as well.
yeah.
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 And I can't I I like that I expect that it has changed everyone, and it changed you, and it has changed me. I realize I am incredibly resourceful. I've realized that I can do things alone. I am independent. Um, I've I've learnt that my capacity to love is ever expanding, and I guess it's brought me eventually to coaching and to my form of leadership, which is
Yes.
a form of role modeling that includes including everyone's wishes and feelings, and having them co-create the future that we're going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
beautiful. I was
is.
gonna ask you, I was gonna ask you next, what values are you modeling for your daughter? And I think you just explained it so beautifully. Um, you know, One of the things I've learned is that leadership and the modeling that we do for our children, right? Like, okay, this is what we've gone through, and this is the resilience we have. Um, it's unconventional, some of the things that we do, right? According to society, but it's like we need to break the mold, right? We're not robots. Everyone's scared of AI, but yet they all want to be the same. And it's like, no, we have different ways of showing up. So are there any additional ways of values that you're modeling for your daughter?
Well, I recognize that she has her own values. We have some
Mm,
family values, and it is my job to teach her how to look after herself because she's still underage. So, you know, I teach her the basics: sleep, exercise, and healthy eating. I teach her these basics, and beyond that, the only other thing that is enforced is violin, which is my version of uh, seeing something slowly grow, delayed gratification, doing something hard that's extremely unrewarding at the start. Because our lives, I live a very privileged life, and they're very easy. And violin is for her something that she can see, that we don't just follow our what we feel in the short term. Um, and there are rewards to working at something, to persistence. And other than that, she is making the choices. She is telling me her values, and we are talking about them. And that, one of my values is adventure, and I like adventure of the mind or adventure of the body, which means I love travel, which is in conflict sometimes with what my daughter values and what she wants. And so we have to negotiate that, as you do with all of your values when you're
yes.
choosing whether to continue with trying to have a family, and you're looking at what your son needs and what you want to provide for your son. So you would have had to negotiate that too.
Yes,
And coaching is
absolutely.
perfect, wonderful for that. isn't it?
Yes. I feel like he was my first client. He doesn't know that. That's what I tell myself. So, speaking of your clients, you teach them to remove the comparison and the competition from their lives and use judgment as discernment, not condemnation. How does that shift change the fertility journey? Because I imagine there's so much comparison happening. I mean, we've talked about already comparing your timeline to others, your body to others, your outcome to others. So break that down.
Yeah, I mean, and that is what hurts, right?
Mhm,
That's what gives you the shame,
mhm,
the should. My body should be doing this. I'm broken. These
mhm,
are very painful thoughts. And so focusing on reframing those thoughts and focusing on the kindness to yourself about who you are and where you want to go and what you want out of your life,
mhm.
and not giving it the timeline, um, allowing other people to just be, have their lives, because you only have one precious life.
Yes.
So it's great to notice um, that someone else is living a life that you want, because then, that jealousy or envy, instead of judging it as the green-eyed monster, just
Mhm.
allow it. Ouch, it hurts.
Yeah.
And it tells me what I want. Great. It's good to know what I want. Can't go after something I don't want, but then again, letting go so that it can happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, um, and then you can get to a state where there is less pain with all of that, and much less self-condemnation as well, because um, looking at other people and making a judgment on them, it just comes back to you as a judgment on you, and that's what you want release from.
Yeah. And like
You want
even
that
when I
free.
think about that judgment that I used to place, I realized sometimes it wasn't my thoughts or it wasn't my voice. It was the voice of others that was always in
Mm,
my ear, right? That society places so much blame and shame on people going through fertility struggles. So that's why they don't even want to mention it to people. Like, you could be married for 5, 6 years. There was a couple, I think, on Love is Blind, like the first Love is Blind on Netflix, that couple that first like fell in love struggles, and they had been married for 5, 6 years, and they're just now having their first baby. And she talked about her IVF struggles, and she got pregnant after she lost her dad. I think it was like the release, the stress of everything that was happening, and just kind of course this will happen now. But I can only imagine someone like in that celebrity status who is scrutinized on everything they're doing. And I'm thinking about just my own family dynamic, and how toxic it can be when people are trying to mean well when they're saying things, but it's hard to navigate through, right? So how do you help your clients move through that system of like the
yeah.
external forces and things like that?
By connecting back with what matters most to them, their idea of family, their idea of love, their idea of health, um, all of the basics, but they're very individual versions of that. And also putting in strong boundaries, because it can be just for a season. You if it is hurting you and it's too much, then put in the boundary. And finally, by focusing on what you're doing, the more focus that you have on your own life, on what matters to you, the less, allowing other people, that's their business, the more that you can shift that, the more helpful. But those internal voices, we work together to create, you could call them mantras, but we rewire your brain so that it is saying kind things, it is saying supportive things,
Mhm.
it is saying the things that you would say to a young child. So you're
Mm.
speaking to yourself always with self-love, self-compassion, supportive. You would never, ever belittle a young child. And so that is how you need to speak to yourself. And it takes practice because
Yes.
all those other voices in society are there and we've picked them up and we've repeated them. And slowing down and allowing yourself to feel and find where those feelings come from, what thought, and then telling yourself a new thought. That's very powerful.
Yes.
Takes only 5 minutes. You can get really fast at it.
Yes.
So my program doesn't give you homework. 5 minutes homework, just to have to reflect on what's happened and what's been
Yes.
good and what's been hard and challenging about it and what you want to do. But that's it. No coursework, no things to learn, no extra weight, because you've
Pressure,
got
right?
enough showing
Yes.
up to your treatment and to work and your own life
Yeah.
and
See,
your
that
own
is the
feeling.
soft life. Is that your soft life strategy that you have mentioned? Because that's the life I'm living now, right? I don't need to be in the hustle mode where I'm trying harder and doing more. It's let's try something different because we keep doing that and then we hit that wall and then we're crashing out, we're burning out, and then we're like, "Oh, it's okay. We'll get back into it." And it's like, "No, let's try a new strategy." So how is your softness strategy that you've implemented with your club?
Um, it begins with feelings and allowing feelings because we come with the grief. We come with, even if it's just the grief of that naivety of a child will come easily to me, as it has with others, even if it's that childhood dream. But it could be multiple losses. So we have to feel those and learn how to be present to our feelings, but also know that sometimes they're going to come up at work. And sometimes, you will need to put them in a box and come back and take them out and feel them. And it can be done. It sounds terribly difficult when you just say, oh, we do all these things,
Yeah.
but you're in a community and you try and you have some success and you get much better at it quite quickly, and it's so worth it, so then you're motivated to keep doing it. And then it comes with finding joy, um, micro joys that for me, they tell me that hope exists in the world, in life, in pure creation, I guess. So little things like, for me, the new season of vegetables coming up through the ground, um, ducklings. We've got 12 ducklings
Oh,
just on our property. I mean, sometimes they leave our property. They're not ours. They just come in and out. Seeing new life is incredibly hopeful.
yeah.
For me, even light through a cloud.
Yes.
And I just enjoy that moment. It takes maybe 1 minute,
Yeah.
and I let it in all the way. Um, if I want to do something more conscious, I can do a meditation, and just bathe myself in golden pinkish light and
Yes.
feel better.
Yes.
That might be a 10-minute meditation, might be a 5-minute meditation, and like a sunset, that makes me feel um, feel more like myself.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I mean. The self isn't necessarily unchanged by the experience. We'd want to be changed by our experience. Otherwise, we'd still be babies. We want to grow and have new capacities. Yeah. I guess also I wanted to kind of think of that rest as a new way to realize all your resources, a lot of ours, and realize that, you have friends, you have women who want to help women. You have new ways to respond to what life throws at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're much more creative after you've rested and you realize that you've actually regenerated your own resources, your own capacity as well by having rest. So I don't know, it's 10 times as more effective and efficient. Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of my program, I guess I'll just cite I don't want to get into too many numbers, but I don't want to be incorrect either. But there's a growing evidence base for mind-body programs like mine that support an individual and make them feel cared for and give them more self-compassion. Those programs are increasing fertility rates and decreasing the level of distress that people are experiencing as they go through complex family building and that extended uncertainty. And one particular study of 71 women who had not brought a pregnancy to full term had a control group as well as people who went through a program just like mine, a mind body program. It was 10 weeks long, and the odds of them having a baby in the arms of pregnancy became over 4 times as great as the group who didn't receive the support. So you're looking after yourself and you're improving your outcomes. And I think that's the case for all that rest and all those coaching programs that address our mindset and ask us to take action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say to the woman listening right now who's exhausted from trying, whether it's fertility, a business, a relationship, or just life, and feels like she can't afford to rest? Like if she stops pushing, everything will fall apart.
It feels so counterintuitive, and yet that's exactly what you need to do. I would say get coaching. And I would say it to the woman who isn't yet trying to conceive, late 20s, because for me, IVF is a wonderful thing, but it's so much better if you don't need it.
Yes.
and and there are many, I've talked to many people who they had to have they were a carrier of a genetic gene that would make their male child blind, and their female child would carry that gene to possibly their own male child. And so IVF and genetic screening was so important to them and essential. And there are people with PCOS. There are many things where we need this support, but there are also women who have got to their late 30s who now need IVF or additional support, reproductive support, which they wouldn't need if they were younger. And I would tell my younger self that fact. And yeah, I was trying to find a partner. I had wonderful relationships which I left, which didn't feel right. And I thought I was doing everything that I could, but I would get coaching because to know really what you want, to know how you want to live, what matters most to you, to make decisions that are going to help that happen, is so empowering. And when people are weighing up, they might be weighing up their career and they haven't got a house yet. They want to get set up to have a family. I would encourage them to go through coaching so that they know what they truly need, because children need love.
Yes.
Love.
I agree.
We
I
need
was gonna,
food.
yes. I mean, we need, but they need the love. Like it saves us the years of therapy and all the things down the road if it's, started off right. I mean, I think coaching would have saved me a few years. I mean, I don't regret how my life has, been
No,
created and things. But if I look
no.
back at it and I think about how much things I'm trying to Google or YouTube University to get the answers I need versus like just have one designated coach to walk me through this, whatever that journey, that season in my life is, I saw the past me and I see the current me who is always going to find herself a coach because it makes a difference, right? I don't have time to sit here and wait another 5 years trying to figure out the answer. Someone can get it to me in 90 days or a year. Great. Um, just so I can have, mental clarity, right? Because it's so much information online nowadays. You don't know which way to go. So if you have one group and you see that there's evidence backing the information they're providing and you see in a community come together, it's like, why not get the coaching? It just makes sense. And as you talked about yourself in the past, imagine yourself in the future. A new year, let's say it's October 2026, October 15th,
Well,
2026. How does your life feel then? Right? Who are you becoming?
I'm expanding my capacity to love. I'm with many more clients, many more women and LGBTQ plus folk going through complex family building, assisting their decision making, assisting their capacity to self-love, to self-care, and bringing children who are greatly loved into the world, whose parents, the intended parents, have been longing for this and are very, very conscious of the family that they're creating. And the families are diverse. Altogether, they are very different, and they create a world of change makers. Yeah. I think one of the things about choosing to have a child in these times is, whether we should even be doing it, looking at the world at this stage. And I'm hoping that this next generation is full of change makers.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
If there was one chain you want the listeners to break after hearing this conversation, what would it be?
I think it would be their shoulds, whatever's happening in their head. Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably all the chains, but break it at that point in your head where it comes out as a should, and just question that.
Hmm.
Just
Amazing.
do
Thank you
what
so
matters to you.
much, Anomie, for your vulnerability, your wisdom, and building something that transforms isolation into understanding. Where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about Nest Coaching Club?
Um, my website is anomieatkins.com, and I'm Anomie Atkins on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I can't work my TikTok. Ignore.
Listen,
uh,
the social media is real.
yeah, I'm easy to find, and I'd love to have a chat just to see where you're at, to provide you with a few tools, no obligation, no sales in that, just you go away, see how those tools work for you, and just have someone to talk to. I'd love to have a chat. You can book
And
a chat on my website.
and I'll cut this out if you don't want me to, but are you wanting to do the quick intentional reset? Did you want
Yeah,
to do something
sure.
live? Okay, so we'll
Yes.
cut. All right. And if you want to experience Anomie's coaching live, she's going to lead us through a quick intention reset in just a moment. But first, if this conversation touched you, if you experience pregnancy or infant loss, or if you're in the thick of a fertility journey right now, I want you to know you are not alone. Your grief is valid, your hope is valid, and tonight at 7 p.m. in your time zone, light a candle. Join the wave of light. We'll be lighting one too. Okay, so I'll jump to this part. All right. Anomie, you offered to guide us through a quick coaching session on intention, identity, and belief. Will you lead us through that now?
Yes, absolutely. So I'd like you, we're in October, so let's have a look at what you would like for your 2026. Imagine that you are now in January in the new year. And I would like you to think about, or write, if you'd like to write it down, that'd be wonderful as well. The self you are, describe yourself in this new year. What would you like to say about yourself and the life that you are living? I'm going to use Nicole as my guide as she's writing it. That'll be enough time for everyone. And if not, you can always come back to it. So who are you in this new year? And what does your life look like? And now, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be you in that life? And I'm encouraging you to look for a feeling. And it could be a sensory feeling like shivery, could be a feeling that your body feels, or it could be a feeling like exalted, joyous, empowered. It could be strong. It could be happy. Keep it simple, really simple feelings, not intellectualized. We want to go straight into emotions and sensations. Could be eyes uplifted, if that is your feeling. Yeah. And now we want to check that that is embodying some of your values. And if you don't know your values yet, that's okay. We can explore that in person if you give me a call. But I'm just going to say it is what matters most to you, and the flavor, the particular personal flavor of that. And from there, I want to ask you to embody this new, who you are, this new identity, with the sensory experience of being this person. So what do you look like? What do you smell? What do you feel? We've done feel. What sights? What do you look like? What do you sound like? What will you wear? How will your body posture be? What will you eat and drink? And what small thing can you do straight after this call to be this person? And what would be an easy first step towards walking to this person. And in coaching language, we sometimes say a quick win that takes you towards that new 2026 you.
I can't
It's
wait
just
for
a
her.
little one.
I'm like, oh yeah, let me write about her. I always think about her.
Let's start being now and see how far we get, because we've still got 2.5 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that gift, Anomie. I hope everyone listening took a moment to really do that exercise, not just hear it, but feel it. So thank you for being here today, for holding space with us on this sacred day, and for showing up even when it's hard. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tag us on Instagram at NicoleRichards718 and at Anomie Atkins, same as Instagram, with the hashtag Breaking Chains Podcast. Connect with Anomie at anomieatkins.com and learn more about Nest Coaching Club. Remember, tonight at 7 p.m., light your candle. You are not alone. Thank you for being a part of the village. Until next time, keep breaking chains.